Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of The Last Hit, the only podcast for the LPL. I'm Mazel, your host, and I'm joined once again by my two wonderful co-hosts. I've got Lyric with me to start us off, and I've got Dagda yet again to break down the week's action. I'm just going to start off by saying OMG is the best team in the LPL. They're going to be world champions in 2022. JDG's time is over. They're probably out of the LPL after this year.
I'll take overreactions for 200.
Who'd have thought? But in all actuality, there's been some craziness in the start of the season so far.
Yeah, there's been, I'd say, a lot of unexpected surprises in regards to like the form teams are coming in. I don't think LPL's starting off the best, but all of our rosters change, so it is completely fair. JDG, like you said, do kind of suck. Luckily, though, Mazel, you can't get relegated in the LPL. So, you know what? You're just wrong.
As Jordan's favorite team has discovered V5,
Yep.
you just kind of sit there and then you basically take one split off and then try and revamp the roster and then
Throw
see
a
if
bunch
it works,
of money
and then
at
you just
it,
take another
then-
split off and then come back. Yeah.
It all works out in the end after all of that. But it is actually really, really interesting. And so I do want to lead this conversation into talking about what we saw this week and the fact that, OMG is 3-0. EDG look like they haven't missed a step in their actual dominance of the Rift and all of that kind of coming together.
Yeah, I mean, Mazel, there's a lot. There's 17 teams. You know what? I'm gonna take over. I'm just gonna pick the team that jumps up to me that I want to talk about. Me, Lyric.
What surprises you most, Lyric? Let's see what
Honestly, Rare Adam, which is kind of confusing because Rare Adam
Yes.
are just 1-1. But I think Rare Adam actually look really good. Like, surprisingly better than I expected. I think a lot of us had them very low in the tier list. Junja not starting, Lil Yen coming in, but Lil Yen looked insane on the rec side. I actually brought it out in 2 games already, which is pretty cool. Super proactive early on. Strive kind of living up to the hype, not necessarily taking over games, maybe like someone like Shanji has over on OMG, but still looking quite good. And I feel like the other members of RA, Zora, looked atrocious in Demacia Cup. I thought he was going to be the worst support in LPL, came in and has had some good performances so far. So I think Rare Adam looked like a team that are probably going to take a lot of games off the top teams.
I'm just going to say it bluntly. They're Demacia Cup. They sucked. I looked at this team, was like, does anyone know what they're doing?
No.
It was like they were running around like headless chickens, and like every so often they discovered that birdseed had been sprinkled somewhere on the map, but nobody came at the same time. It was like one person arrived, and then the others found out from a squawk that was where the birdseed was, and they'd eventually show up. But at that time, they'd already got butchered. It was awful. It was so bad. So for them to come in and actually look pretty good, I was really surprised. Like, Corky for the Strive, that rocket for the triple kill was nasty. Like, this guy actually had some really cool moments. So I do agree, Strive hasn't taken over games, but certainly like living up to a lot of the expectations that were set on him. And the fact Rare Adam looked like a team at all brings me so much joy.
And I just gotta say one more thing. For context, Dagda is coming off of just casting 6 games literally like 20 minutes ago. And I love this. Is the tired Dagda unfiltered, just going in on RA, but also giving them the credit, right? Because again, that was Demacia Cup. This is LPL. RA did lose to LNG, but it was a super close series. RA definitely could have won it. And yeah, I just don't think there's enough good things to say about RA. I think they're definitely going to be a middle tier team that are contending for playoffs.
And I think that, talking a little bit about it, you already mentioned their name once, but that conversation about RNG and maybe the too early take, but seeing them falter a little bit early on with this new, or I guess, revamped iteration of the roster.
Mr. Orangey, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit messy. The fact that we haven't actually seen them kind of solidify an identity is kind of the big one for me. It feels like they still need time to get that together. Because I think a lot of people are going, well, they were so heavily on Xiaohu playing side lanes and playing towards Xiaohu. They didn't really know how to play the mid game. So coming back into this, we're seeing Bin playing very aggressive in the top lane, but not really getting a huge amount of resources there. It feels like they're trying to play a little bit more around Gala, but it's not really coming together. I think Xiaohu still looks really good in the mid lane, but definitely their mid-game has taken a hit as a result because Xiaohu just can't really control side lanes to the same extent with the champions that he's playing. And it's just all looking a bit all over the place. So I think this will be a team that needs a bit of time to kind of find what they're trying to do. But that was always the conversation kind of coming into LPL was like, what are RNG actually going to do? And unfortunately, that identity is still out the window for me.
I feel like for RNG, the one thing that's kind of cool and very clear, I know from, the make or break pieces or comms that have been put out of the league before that Ming is a very vocal piece. But I think from looking at RNG, after week 1, it can be like confirmed, solidified that Xiaohu must have a massive voice in the early game, because we saw Wei playing around him a ton, even while he's still a mid laner. And I completely agree with Rob, right? Because since he is such a large voice, once you're transitioning into the mid game, since he isn't playing these same champions that can side lane and split push the way he could last time, right? He's playing more control mages. We saw things like the Vex coming out. He did play TF, which does still fill that role, but still not the same amount of 1v1 pressure in a side lane. You aren't going to be able to play out the mid game the same way that you did before. So RNG are going to have to adapt to just kind of the voices they have as their primary shot callers to be able to find a system that works.
I also think the big thing for RNG is that they just don't look comfortable on the mega carries, right? Like, we've seen them pretty much just avoid Jinx altogether. Gala does not want to touch that. They've been much more, like, we've seen some of Philios, but it has been, like, a lot of the Jhin. And I think that is going to kind of hurt them as this goes forward. I know a lot of people are talking about, like, the 2 trick that for Gala, but definitely the champion pool issues are there. And I think, like, we'll see him go back towards the Ziggs and the Jins and these kind of things, but not being able to kind of contest these, I think, is going to hurt RNG a bit, especially if they're coming into every game and they have to ban Jinx Caitlyn, right, just off the bat because they can't play them. That's where you're going to start to see issues start to climb through, and maybe this is then the identity that they start to work with, right? Because I think a lot of teams have come in and kind of gone, hey, look, we're not comfortable on Jinx, we're not comfortable on Caitlyn, like playing through a bot side, so we just ban bot lane champions and play top side, like just completely screw everything else and go there. So maybe that's the plan for RNG, and trying to set up Bin for success, but I don't know. It just seems like they haven't really figured it out.
Yeah, and we're still pretty early in the season, so you got some time to do so. But talking a little bit about those duos, right? And you were mentioning the Wei Xiaohu conversation about the integral piece of how they play, but looking at the jungle mid duos across the league, we have so many stellar duos. But the duo I definitely want to talk about, and one we got to see tonight, was Rookie and Karsa for V5, and we talked a little bit about V5. We got the overreaction from Lyric, but a serious conversation needs to be had. Like, I posted on Twitter, I think that this duo can be one of the deadliest in LPL history. I think they have what it takes.
I feel like as a team, they looked extremely messy today. They did come out with a win in their series, but a lot of their decision making is pretty suspect. I remember there was one point in one of the games where Dagda pointed out of like, why is Victory 5 like wasting so much time posturing for? I can't remember if it was Dragon or Herald, but go to the opposite side. You already have one person pushing down there. You already have some wards set up, and they just wasted so much time staring at WE. There was suspect Baron calls, times where they were making plays around top when they had like full vision control and all their other members spot side. But I think Rookie overall looked pretty solid in game 1 and game 3. His Zoe was absolutely was phenomenal. He completely popped off and carried. Karsa as well. To the detriment of the Karsa haters who have still found a way to hate on him. Still after that game, I think Karsa overall looking solid. 2021, I think Karsa was pretty bad. So coming into 2022, at least in their opening series, looking pretty decent. I think as a mid-jungle 2v2, they still have a lot of room to grow, find out like what matchups. They weren't really picking for aggressive 2v2 in today's series either, but I feel like the rest of V5's map has to be shored up a little bit, and especially their decision-making, their macro, their shot calling, before we'll even get to see them as a unit pop off together.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, though. Like, there was hints of seeing, like, Rookie and Karsa linking up together, but PP got getting involved as well, and we saw them find like a bunch of picks in the early stages. So I was kind of curious to see if that was something that they'll grow on over the course of the split, because it definitely felt like Photic is perfectly fine to just kind of sit there in the bot lane and do his thing, right? He wants to pop off in team fights, and they had some 2v2 moments where they looked well, but honestly I think he's just perfectly happy if PP God wants to start linking up with Karsa a little bit. The only big thing for me was like there was a couple times, as you said, for like Karsa where he was definitely supporting Invincible in the top lane, but I thought it was a bit unnecessary for him to be in that position in the early portion of the game. I think he could have like either been clearing or trying to be else like helping down bot side. A couple of mechanical fumbles, but I don't like see him as like a major holdback for the team. I thought he played really well as well. So I think definitely the mid jungle for this squad could be super strong and definitely something that I'm expecting them to play through because we saw like literally first gank of the game, our first gank of the series was Carson going mid for Rookie. So I want to see more of that. If you give Rookie resources, he pays it back tenfold. And if you can actually get him a lead, he'll happily start moving around the map and take it.
I do got to say, though, again, I'm one of the biggest fans of Rookie there is. Rookie, I think Rookie is the second best player of all time in League of Legends, in my opinion, unquestionable.
Okay.
His Vex today, his Vex was not it. He was not hitting his ult to save his life. And man,
hard
it looked
play
like he didn't
Rookie
even want to
over
throw
here,
his
no big
ultimate.
deal.
It was, I mean,
I find it.
go on, Rob.
I just find it hilarious that we get like some of the guys coming in and look phenomenal on the Vex, and you get other guys like Scout and Rookie who are just like, have you even played this before today? Like, this ult is even remotely close to hitting.
Happens.
I always find it so funny. But hey, that's some of the growing pains coming into the season, coming into new champions, Rookie coming into a new team. All right, give the man some slack. Jeez, guys. But in all actuality, like that conversation is so interesting, and that also leads into more, right? Like talking about the, dog walker, if you will, of Crisp over on Billy and their performance tonight as well, but throughout the first week and showing like their first performance of the season actually coming out with a dub.
I mean,
Rob, you
for this,
you're fresh off the cast. I feel like you have like an unlimited brain full of knowledge on this team. You probably have every analytical point in the world. You can tell me exactly where they're going to finish at the end of spring season.
Ooh.
And I've already interrupted you twice, so I'm not going to interrupt you a third time.
I like how you just set him up for the point and just leave it. You just drop the mic.
I was just gonna say, I feel like for BLG individually, it wasn't bad games. Like each individual played well, but as a team, I did not look coordinated at all, right? Like, there were so many times where I thought I was going to see them, like, actually, especially in game 3, right? Like, they had this lead. They had the two big pushers for, like, lanes on the Ziggs and the Zoe. I was like, cool, Breed's in a side lane. They've managed to, like, thwart the engage that Weibo's going for. They're going to leave Breed in the side lane. And next thing I know, Breed is, like, in the middle of 4 members of Weibo because he decided to ditch the side lane and dies. I'm like, why are we here? Why was there a call to, like, come join mid at all? There was no reason for you to be here, let alone in the middle of 4 players. So there's a lot of, like, really strange decision making in that game that I didn't really understand. And it felt like they were nearly scared to push the envelope, right? Like, no one kind of was just strong enough to say, like, for the love of God, go in. Like, just somebody do something. Like, there was just none of that. And it did make sense for a lot of it where you're kind of playing that poke and prod game. But when you had these big advantages, they just really didn't push them forward. And also, I think Fofo's package usage in game 1 was pretty abysmal.
So bad.
Like, you kind of just picked it up because it was there rather than actually using it for anything, especially when you can actually use that to roam and get advantages on the map early. It felt like, well, it was BLG's game to lose and they lost it. Really.
I mean, he single-handedly threw away that game. Even his package use, bad, but man, I don't know what he was doing there. They're trying to zone them out of River for Dragon. He's poking with his rockets, but Nautilus is just walking straight at him and doesn't Valkyrie away, doesn't do anything, gets hooked, automatically loses him the fight. Fofo was super underwhelming for someone who I think was a top 3 mid laner for a large part of 2021. So for BLG, I'm going to reserve any judgments on them just because we do still kind of expect this to be a bit of the Uzi waiting room. Also, shout out to Doggo. I love when
I'm just waiting for the dog walker skin for Chris, man. Like, come on, that's all I need right now. The TP was really, really interesting. Is that the question?
It made me sad.
Put a little question mark at the end of that sentence for sure. But the next thing, and I really wanted to hit on is, JDG and Team WE coming away from the first week 0-2, right? Yes, it is just the first week. There's a long, long way to go for the rest of the season. But these are 2 top teams in the history of the LPL. And it come out a little bit flat. Definitely not the start they want.
I mean, we're saying 2 top teams in the history of the LPL. These are 2 completely new rosters. WE, I'll be real. I had no expectation for this roster. I think the names that they've put together on paper just They don't really have the star power there. You look at this roster, like, who is going to carry this team? No one jumps out at me. It hurts even more that sadly they do not have Beishang because he's in Xi'an. The rest of the team is in Shanghai, isn't able to join up with them. He was one of their defining players over the past few years. So you're pretty much looking at them and you're like, okay, there's Shanks. And Shanks had a pretty good summer split, had a really good playoffs, but still, I don't feel like Shanks was ever I'm going to completely take my team, put them on my back, and bring them across the finish line. Yeah. He had other members who are popping off and performing well to where he could still just step up and have the most impact. But it wasn't like Rookie in 2020 having to carry that IG team single-handedly. And sadly, for this WE team to win, and Shanks will need to do that. I think for this team to win, Shanks will need to have those performances. I think Kadaya's had some decent games. His Rakan today was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
View overall, I think, has been solid. He's definitely had a lot of bad moments.
He had a good performance today.
Overall, then you just look at the firepower. I think Stay and Bubu are all right. Stay's probably the most underwhelming member on this team, but they just don't have a carry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised by them, to be honest. Like, I was the same as you. I didn't have expectations for them. And I think their coordination for team fights and engagements has been super strong, right? Like, clearly there is a defined voice on the team that is saying go, and everyone just says, well, how far? Like, that's all. It's we're already gone, but they're following you to the ends of the earth, which I think is a good way to play when you are a bunch of rookies that are kind of trying to catch people off guard. Having that coordination is going to bring you a couple of victories. And we saw it in the series against Weibo, where they had those really clean engages off of Kadaya's Rakan. And then again, the Rakan today was super good. But I think Kadaya is going to stop getting Rakan, and that's where I get worried. Because I think Leona was a little bit underwhelming, missing a lot of like mechanical plays, just not really coming together and not kind of having that same big engage. So honestly, I think WE pleasantly surprised. I'm hoping when Beishang comes back, we can get like Beishang and Kadaya playing together. And I don't know. I thought the Xing was going to honestly be the starting AD carry for them. I like, he was Young Miracle's bot lane who won the LDL in spring 2021. And he seemed like the main go-to for them, but they have gone with Stay, who was their original academy bot laner. So I don't know, maybe when Xing comes in, if Xing comes in, there would be a better upgrade in the bot lane. I don't know the full comparison between the two, but yeah, it definitely feels like this is a team that I think could grow quite a bit, especially when it is a bunch of rookies, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see where they're starting off.
So this actually leads you to a question, because I got to see how low your expectations were for them.
So where was the bar?
Right, because if you're pleasantly surprised, so where did you have WE coming into the split?
All right, I'm gonna have to go find this. So keep talking for a second,
because for WE, right, there have been some positives for WE. Like, I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's like, man, starting off 0-2, there aren't too many teams right now I can imagine them beating. TT for sure. Anyone's Legend, maybe. That's
I think I had them in 10th.
Oh,
as far as I can see.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. Which I'm actually kind of surprised at as well. I think
you surprised yourself. Good job, past Dagda.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. To be fair, I did this like last minute and slightly tipsy for bevies with the
Let's go.
The best way to do power
may not have
rankings.
been the best one. Yeah, but yeah, I think just like straight up a bunch of rookies, right? I did think that Beishang was going to be starting, which was a big factor, and I was thinking Beishang and Kadaya could link up maybe, but that would be, and basically be like the play through mid and try and set yourselves up. So I was thinking they'd kind of do like not 10th. I did think maybe like 12th would kind of be the idea. I thought OMG would actually potentially do better than them, but yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with how good they've looked, especially with View starting. And I feel like it'll only get stronger when Beishang does come back and is able to give a lot more support to the team in ways that View has missed out a little bit. I will say, as you say, he's been decent, but it hasn't been like Beishang level.
Nope.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference maker there, but the next thing I definitely want to kind of cover is talking a little bit about maybe a game of Among Us in the LPL, but talking about who is crew and who's imposter right now, especially looking at the undefeated LPL teams, even some of the defeated LPL teams. I feel like right now we have a lobby of like all the undefeated teams looking really good, and then you have TT off on the side that they just like don't talk to and they just leave to do whatever they want. Starting 0-3 on the season, but we got to figure out who is crew and who is sus here. All right, we got to sniff them out.
I gotta be honest. The biggest imposter in the LPL right now to me is LNG. The fact that LNG are undefeated blows my mind with how their games have looked.
Why you gotta do that to him, man?
It's even weird too because I think Tarzan and Doinby have actually looked good.
Yeah.
Like not comparatively to the teams that played. No, they've just looked good. Doinby's been popping off in the games he's played. Tarzan as well been setting him up. They've been kind of working to enable him a little bit more than I would have expected. I would have expected him to play a bit more for mid lane rather than for jungle. But the rest of the map is pretty atrocious. Their decision making is absolutely horrible. They can't coordinate anything. They can't coordinate side lanes. They're engaged in team fights. Looks rough. I don't want to just keep hammering home on the Lumao point.
Do we need to keep making a checklist?
I was looking around for my free I1 design. I don't know where I put it earlier.
I just can't keep doing it. And it's like, I'm not saying that LNG can't realize what everyone expected of this roster to be a top team, right? Having Ala up in top side. Light, I think, has been fine. It was one of their, I think it was their win against Ultra Prime where he popped off on Caitlyn one game and looked quite good. You know, it could be that strong weak side AD carry who every now and then is going to have a game where he's going to carry. But man, they just have not been able to bring it together just yet. Again, I feel like a lot of their coordination, a lot of decisions around mid and late game just look really abysmal. And yeah, they definitely are the team that does not fit in with the other.
They are the
right
imposter.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like looking at the way that they try and set up lanes, how they try and coordinate on the map, I don't know. Like again, hammering it home, like Lumao just walking in randomly, getting picked off in so many different spots where they're working all right, and then the team has to all jump in. It just looks so messy. So yeah, I agree with Lyric. Like LNG, I have been baffled that they've actually managed to get like a 2-0. I mean, it's wonderful if they can sort out these issues, right? Because at least then, if they hit the mark that they're supposed to, this is a team that we expect to do really well. I think I actually had them in third.
It seems scary if they get on point.
Yeah, so this is where you're like, okay, now they're actually in a position where they can try and carry through. But the fact that they have 2 wins already is just insane to me. It really doesn't look deserved, to be honest, to be a bit brutal. It's just been a sad one. I also think I have another one, which is I am on board with OMG, but I also feel being 3-0 is not indicative of them being the top team.
I don't want to hear your naysaying. All right, get out of here.
Our TT, anyone's legend, IG that look absolutely abysmal.
You're
like
crazy.
This is not like. They've had a bit of an easy run. And I'm just saying, I like Cream. I think he looks wonderful. I think they'll look great. But it has been potentially the easiest start to the split anyone has had.
Mazel, go at him. Go at him,
Mazel. I'm going in, man. I'm going in. No, the fact that Kareem is looking to get an MVP on the season after he just got Rookie of the Year, right? Like, the dude is popping off, man. And we expected that coming in. But my heart goes out for this team, right? Like to be able, I said it on cast, sticking together for another year, you know, bringing in Shanji, who, by the way, looks like an absolute Chad at the top lane. I don't know, my hopes are high, Dagda. I hear your naysaying, and I say no way, Jose.
Yeah.
Here, Mazel, I'll even put a number on it. So I think I had OMG finishing somewhere between 8th and 10th coming into the split. So they were going to make playoffs, but not by much. Now, you know, I don't care if it's only been TT, Anyone's Legends, and IG. I think this team will be a top 6 team. Ooh. Man, Shaji's insane.
Shaji is
Gragas
insane.
with the Yumi.
Yeah.
The blind pick Rumble. This guy doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm just better than you. I'm just going to blind pick Rumble top. This champion is so easily gankable and exploitable, but not Shanji. He's just going to completely destroy you. Cold, the resurgence continues. And the biggest surprise for me is Abel, because Abel's now carried 2 or 3 games, which is pretty much how many games Abel carried in a whole split last time. So this team is just coming together.
I want to fully agree.
I am
just cautious about this, all right? Because you look at the bot lanes, all right? Like, Puff and Setwind, not exactly the most insane of bot lanes to have ever taken.
We don't need the research.
You look at IG's
we
bot
don't need
lane.
the research.
Xiao Yuji and Lucas, not looking so hot either.
Why would we use logic?
Who was the last team they played? Anyone's Legend as well, which is Betty and Chocho.
That's a power. That's a power.
Considered one of the worst ones that we had. So, like, when you compare the caliber of bot lanes that they have been up against, sure, Abel's going to look all right. I'm not saying Cream is not a beast. I 100% agree. I think Cream is a beast. I think he's one of the stronger mid laners that we have. I think Shanji has looked wonderful. But again, the caliber that they've gone up against does not mean that they've been tested.
He just doesn't want to give
haven't
it to
been
him.
tested.
We're not going to get the confession. We're not going to get the confession.
All right. I'm going to throw it. ZDZ. We've got Ali or ZS and you. That is the caliber that Shanji's got up against. They were all bottom tier top laners for me for pretty much the entirety of last year.
Whoa. But
so
he styled on them with the Rumble.
Yeah.
Did Ben
come on.
style
Did you see
on
that,
them with Rumble?
Did you see that, Gragas? Like, I mean, come on.
Did
like,
Xiaohu do that last year? I don't
No,
remember
he
Xiaohu
didn't.
styling on them with the Rumble.
he didn't, Dagda. All right.
yeah. Wait, didn't he play Rumble? I'm pretty sure he
No
did
more
style a few
logic,
people
no
in
more
Rumble last
research.
year.
We don't care about that stuff. We don't use that in our arguments here, all right? But seriously, though, another team that we have to talk about, it's kind of the elephant in the room, is EDG. And I wouldn't call them if it either Imposter or Crew, right? They're kind of just outside of it all because they're bigger than everybody.
They're just playing a different game.
Literally. Like, it's
I was going to
insane.
say, if EDG aren't among us, they own the ship, or they are the ship. You know, like that's how they fit in. Because it's kind of funny because you say like, oh, there's so much to say about this team. I don't feel like there is yet because EDG have just come in and just kind of clap people based on.
They've said everything for us.
They've come in and clapped people a little bit with individual skill, like we saw in some games. I can't remember which one in the first series where JJ just completely popped off. I believe it was the Annie game.
JDG.
Flandre played.
JDG game 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
JJ completely popping off. Game 2, we get the Vladimir coming out for Flandre. Heck, in their second series, they don't even play with Flandre.
I know.
Flandre's sick. They bring in Xiao.
And he
They are
still pops off.
clapping people.
Like, oh my god.
So for EDG, I don't know. Again, they made no roster changes, so they are definitely coming in the best suited for doing well early in the split. I'm very curious to see them play up against OMG right now, who in current form look good. To see them play against FPX, so I think have a more solid read on the game right now than most teams. Honestly, those are the two big ones. And it's kind of funny how many of our teams are struggling beyond those three.
How?
So
Go
I
ahead.
actually
Go ahead.
Got it. Oh, I was gonna say I actually find it really interesting. Just like the conversation of because we're bringing up the Annie, the Vladimir, the Rumble. Like we're seeing so much flexibility in the meta that it actually seems kind of nuts, and I think it does suit like teams like EDG, right? Because you've got Flandre who can play tanks, can play carries. It's all well and good. Scout has definitely looked more comfortable on like the Akalis and the Solaces when we look at Worlds, but still looking pretty good on like Corkis and Victors and all that. And you've got a bot lane that can pretty much play enchanters, play engage supports. You've got Viper who can pop off on whatever the hell you decide to give him. Like it just feels like EDG have all the bases covered right now, and when they're able to bring out funky stuff like Predator Addy as a counter to Jace, I'm loving this team right now. I just think they're so damn good, and they're even if they go up against like some of the top teams, just no one seems able to reach them. Like whatever the hell happens, like they seem to have picks that we didn't even know existed in the meta, and I thought they wouldn't come in ready for the bare bones basics of the meta. So I'm just like, what the hell are you supposed to do with EDG? They just look like they're gonna stomp their way to first place and grab another trophy and say thank you.
Flandre has played Azir top in his professional career. This man can do anything. like people need to be afraid.
It's terrifying, and hey, sky's the limit for this team. It just gets me so excited because we finally see a team who doesn't stumble coming into the new split. Right, they are just dominating and dominating. It does not go either way. All right, so we know who owns the ship now, but I gotta say, the Phoenix is looking a little sus. I'm on the edge over here because FPX, we had high hopes for them at Devasia Cup. They kept that performance going into the new split. They're up 2-0.
I was gonna say honestly, I feel like FPX have done well. They beat RNG, who again we kind of hit on RNG earlier, who has looked a little bit off, but I feel like that's a really good win. That's a massive test for them. Even an RNG that hasn't figured out their identity yet, just in terms of the skill gap that should be there between the RNG players and the new players on FPX, right? It wasn't there. You weren't seeing them necessarily get smashed out in lane. They were holding up just fine. If I do recall correctly, I do believe Bin was doing pretty good against Xiaohu and was like the one place.
He got a couple solo kills.
Yeah, it was the one area where you were kind of questioning. But bot lane still is absolutely terrifying. again, I'm so happy in LPL that we always miss level 1. By the time we get into game from Pick Man, we're like a minute 30 in.
We're already into the
like,
nitty-gritty. The fight's already
in like
happened.
in half of FPX games, Hung's flash is already gone. This guy's already looked for the play. He is so fearless. Like, FPX are carrying everything over from Demacia Cup to the LPL. Like, they look like the exact same team. It's all about bot lane. They're super aggressive. Baytron popping off in jungle so far. I think Gory has looked rough in certain games, like getting solo killed by Shahu at level 2, but also has had some better games than what we saw in Demacia Cup. So FPX is another team that I'm all in on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping that Hung can rein in the anger a little bit though.
No.
Whoever did him wrong,
you better watch out.
Because wait, when you watch that RNG game too, right? It was like, all right, I'm gonna just flash and look for the binding, and it was like, wait, we just die. Like, we don't win this lane, and me without flash just leaves me a sitting duck for everything that RNG want to do. It was a terrible decision, and even though he tried to apologize profusely, RNG didn't listen. They just went and murdered him over and over again. So I would like to see some thought process going into Hung's flash, not a, hey, I'm going to flash, so you flash, and then we just, that's it. Like, that's how we kind of got. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the aggression, but you just got to think about it sometimes, because it's not always going to let you
There's
win.
a thought process behind it. He's thinking, if I flash bind him and he is bad and doesn't flash, we'll kill him. And if we kill him, we'll win the lane. And if we win the lane, my flash will be up in 5 minutes, and then I'll go flash mid, and I'll win us the team fight. And if we win that team fight, we'll win the game. That's what he's thinking.
If I flash first, there is a 3-second window that we can exploit where my flash is up and their flash
isn't.
That's the window that Hung is playing for. I get you. Yeah. It's all about the big brain. But look, regardless of that, like, I still think this bot lane is terrifying, right? Like, they are definitely like top 3 bot lanes. I'm putting Viper, Mako. I don't know if there's very many more. Maybe the Chris Boozy one when it kicks off.
Jackie Love and Joa
Jackie Love, Joa, yeah. Yeah, but there's not a huge, like, they are one of the best ones that we've gotten. I definitely think that it's exciting to watch, and especially since FPX have very clearly made their mark of, we are playing around bot side and we don't really care what else is happening. I think it's really good. Plus, Shelahu has impressed me.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think this guy coming in, there was a couple of mistakes in lane I think in their Demacia Cup games, but certainly he looks a lot more comfortable in top lane and trading well, as we're saying. Like, yeah, Bin got the better of him on a couple of occasions, but it's not like a massive gap for someone who's only played a handful of games in the LPL. And you're going up against Bin, one of the most aggressive top laners I have, one of the best top laners we have at abusing any sort of mistakes he makes. So certainly I think positive for Shelahu when he's getting so few resources, and FPX popping off as a result.
Well, we've made it through the VIPs, guys. All right, we've gotten our distinctions for imposters and crew members, but
me and Lyric aren't going.
I gotta say, now I'm starting to think you guys are a little sus. I don't know. I might need to do some call an emergency meeting. But seriously, I want to have a conversation about Weibo and about Top, because before we let them into this ship, they're a little bit rocky for sure. You know, both coming into 1-1 at the end of the first week, but showing some promising things to an extent as well.
Top Esports showed me Xiaopeng.
Yep.
I like Xiaopeng.
I like Xiaopeng.
Xiaopeng plays the game. Xiaopeng goes in.
He goes forward.
I can't remember which game it was in that series.
Buttons.
Just constantly chain ganking bot lane. I do believe it was their series Ultra Prime the other day. I should remember that because I did cast it. But Xiaopeng absolutely popped off one game. Jackie Love as well. Absolutely smurfing. You can see this TS style is just going to be the same as it was last year. It's gonna be a lot about these aggressive early game plays coming in. I expect them to continuously use Xiaopeng because of this with the current form TN's in. All their lanes are going to play relatively aggressive. We have seen Xiaopeng be a bit flexible and TS be a bit flexible, whether it's about putting that pressure in top or in bot, just like we saw in Demacia Cup, even throughout the final, right, that they are able to play with both. It seems like large champion pools coming in.
I will say, when you have 13 kills, chances are some of those kills are boss, and some of those kills are also top for Xiaopeng, you know, just because he needs time for the bot lane to come back on the map before he can kill them again. That was just...
Yeah. And, man, even the champion pool. I love players like Xiaopeng because you're going to get the Nidalee, you're going to get the Rek'Sai, you're going to get the fun champions coming in.
The
And for
aggression.
TS, I mean, I think their mistakes are always going to be about the same, right? There's always going to be places where they over-aggress. I think TS have historically been really bad about just completely ignoring their side lanes, which is pretty surprising because I think Knight is a super good side laner. I think Knight functions best when he's able to push a side lane, find a flank, pull attention. We've seen Knight 1v2 many times, but I think TS of a team have never been very good about playing around it, which is why they've always been really good when they can bait you into fighting them and then just out-mechanicking you. So I think TS will definitely get up towards the top. I think their 2-3 game score doesn't reflect where they're at, but
So you're not getting
the same
any
old top
sus
esports.
vibes from top, huh? You're not.
top esports, like, you can't because
You
they
just can't. You're not allowed.
they just are who they are. Like they're not going to pretend to be something different. You're not going to see TS come out and try and be like, okay, guys, we're going to try and 1-3-1 and organize these waves. And, okay, let's set up Vision to go poke down the enemy. No. That's not what they're about, Mazel.
I love
They're
your
gonna fight.
voice. Whatever voice that was, we need to have that as like a mainstay of whatever it is.
I'm gonna go and talk. Like, I agree with everything for top, so I'm just gonna talk about Weibo.
Okay.
This team sucks.
Oh my
I
god!
don't like them.
The hot
I
take.
I
So
watched them
you're
today,
hitting the
like,
red button. You're saying they are an imposter. That's what you're saying.
I'm unfriending,
Oh,
unfollowing, or whatever. I'm taking all my likes back from Weibo.
Dagda's
right?
ruthless
'Cause
today.
I
care.
was really looking forward to this team after their first series, which I can't think of off the top of my head, was against WE, and I was like, this actually looks really good, right? Huan Feng, I have no problem. Actually, Huan Feng, I love. I think Huan Feng's insane. He had really aggressive. He's actually looking a lot more aggressive in lane, and he's really playing off of that quite well. I thought we were going to see the same from Angel. Angel got like the solo kill. I saw him playing way more aggressive on Victor at the Corki matchup. Even like in the game one, he like tossed down his ultimates at the 7-minute mark. Didn't care that meant that they were going to lose Rift Herald because he might have got a kill. And I was like, you know what, Angel, I like the aggression. Maybe should have thought ahead a little bit, but I still like the aggression. Then we got today, and I was like, Angel, the Shy is 20 feet away from you. You have full push mid. Just wander over and help him. Just take 2 steps out of lane and help. I was like, why are you not coming? And they could have killed them. Like, Xin Zhao was incredibly low. They could have won the 2v2. Breathe on the Gwen was pushed under tower. Like, Angel was just sitting in lane the entire time. And then, same as the rest of the game went on, didn't really get out much when he was on the Blanc, because like, you had these opportunities to try and roam. And it felt like the early game that I saw coming out from Weibo in their series against WE just completely didn't exist today. And I think that was one of the larger problems that they had, especially in that game 3. Like, they were on a timer, they needed to make plays happen, and it never really felt like there was any sort of coordination between them to actually set up anything. So I'm kind of back on to basically Weibo will beat the teams that they were better than individually, but I don't really see them being able to coordinate enough to take down some of our top teams.
I think.
Look, the only thoughts I have on Weibo are actually no thoughts. I came
No
into the
thoughts.
split. I came into the
Empty head,
split
no
expecting them to do pretty well because of the meta, which is why, honestly, Mazel, I could complain about Weibo. But since Dagda's coming so ruthless today, so angry, he's just been cutting heads off left and right.
He's got the
I
sword
am
and
ready
he's
for my time to
swinging.
complain. Yeah, because I feel like this transitions well into something I hate. The meta right now. Dagda summed it up with his tweet
He really
today,
did. He really
where
did.
he showed I had to find my inner peace after casting my like 30th Corki versus Victor game in a row, and I'm just like, oh my god, we're gonna get into draft and it's gonna be okay, which team has Corki plus Jinx? This is the team that I feel like is most likely gonna win, and it's always the same. If we get to mid game, this comp will outrange you, they will be able to win contesting waves, get vision first, blah blah blah. It's like, no, stop it. I was so happy today when OMG and
That's what I was going to say.
the OMG series, OMG and IG are like, yo, let's ban out all the ADs, and then we get to Samira's. We get we get to Samira, we get to the Vayne. We've been seeing more Kaisa. This is what I want. I think not even just out of like a boredom. It's slow. It's lame. It's like one of the coolest things about LPL is the fact that teams do index so heavily into such different styles. And yeah, when you're getting the same comp every game, where it's like, okay, one comp has Corki plus Aphelios or Jinx, and the other one has Victor plus Aphelios or Jinx. Well, we're going to get to mid-game. We're going to see who either found an early advantage or who's cutting better, or actually Corky's just going to win because it's Corky. And I am not about it. I'm not about this meta at all, guys. What are your thoughts? Am I crazy? Is it just me?
No, I agree. I think Corky's kind of boring.
It's kind of boring when
I would
you
like to
blow
see more
people's
kind of movement
faces
with the
up.
package.
Yeah, kind of boring.
Yeah, if you can get the package early and you like make some cool plays and you get to see like sick package usage in the bot lane that like separates out 2 or 3 guys, like this is actually kind of cool. You know, that was a cool play. The problem is that we get people like Fofo who take the package and then use it to get from, you know, the hoodie fruit that's in river back to lane faster, and that's where you're kind of like, oh, okay, maybe. But the biggest thing is just like I think there's so many cool things that are like just below the surface in the meta, right? Like Jordan kind of hit on them there. Like you've got the Samiras and all in the bot lane. I'm still waiting to see like that one-shot Gangplank build, the like Prowler's Claw Gangplank that's kind of like sitting in the top side. And you've got Knight who's bringing out like things like the Tryndamere. There's so many things that are just hovering below the surface that are awesome to watch. And it does just feel like it's like, oh, well, you know, we're just going to get Corky. We're just going to get Jhin bot. They're going to try and play at range. Gwen is going to stand in front of them so that then if you actually try and engage on them, she's just going to snip you and make you fall back. Like that seems to be kind of the game plan
honestly,
at the moment.
I feel like my biggest problem is exactly what you just said. I actually don't mind the laning phases. Like the early game, that's not the problem. It's that once we get into the mid game and it's just like, okay, it is just going to be a stare off over with like who has better range advantage or who has the better enablers around those 3 carries that set it up. Like if you have the Gragas and the Braum and you have even more disengage and more peel potential, it's like that's what I don't like. And like Dagda said, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. There are so many cool picks just out of reach, and I just want them. I want them, Mazel. We've seen them.
Like you've got the Manamune Hecarim build. You were mentioning Jhin earlier. There is the Predator Jhin build going through right now. That's kind of skimmering there.
LEC's playing a bunch of Akshan. We don't have a bunch of Akshan.
Well, because when we saw Akshan in Demacia Cup, it was atrocious. Like, I mean, that was mind bending, and so maybe they just don't want to touch the champion anymore. But talking about picks like that, right? Like, I don't know if we'll actually see Hecarim come back into the meta in the LPL, but that would be really fun to have. The AP Kai.
Diana Yasuo.
The AP.
That's the one. Where's my Diana gone? We had like full Diana ban all of like the first few days. And then I was like, oh, I'm ready. No Diana ban. Bring out the Yasuo boys. And I was like, where'd it go?
And then we got the Yuumi. We got the Yuumi. Oh my god.
Hey, the Yuumi was great.
Yuumi Sona.
I'm so on board with the Yuumi. Like that was such a cool pick today in the comp. It's refreshing to see. The Sona, I don't mind the Sona. I even said it on cast. I'm like, I don't understand what the Sona does. I'm not some bot lane expert. I don't know if they know something I don't. But then we saw the Sona get absolutely wrecked. Sona Jhin looks like it is as it's easy to rip as paper, and it does as much damage as a paper cut. You're like, oh well, you just poked me.
Paper cuts hurt,
cool.
man. I don't know.
It's nice. It's nice in isolation where you can like full push, right? Like that's the whole idea, and you kind of like, but other lanes exist, and if they are able to come down to the bot lane, you just got nothing, right? And even if you try and like, oh, well, we got the TPs to support us on if we get dove, it's like, no, you don't. Dona just dies in like 3 hits and then you just leave tower before the TP shows up. So, it's a little messy, but I'm definitely jealous, like watching the LEC and I'm like, Seraphine Pike bots. And I'm like, this is
we'll
sick.
Get
this
there,
is so
right?
cool. And you get to see all the cool stuff.
We'll get there. I know we will. I'm going to force you to do something I know you're not going to be comfortable with, Lyric. What build you got for Corky? The AP or the AD build? I know you already talked a little bit about it on cast, but I want to hear your breakdown because you hate this champion so much.
I think the AD build is more reliable. Again, you're getting more consistent damage out of it. I think a lot of your abilities do still hit with the same amount of force. You're obviously getting lifesteal out of the build. I think there's just a lot of things the build does better. I think the build is a bit more high skill since you're putting yourself in harm's way to deal damage. The nice thing about the AP build is that it just fits the meta better. Yeah. Because, again, on the opposite side, high chance you're up against Victor and Jinx. You can't auto Victor and Jinx.
Yeah.
Build the AP build. Do, half someone's HP with the rockets and just chill. So, even though I think overarchingly the AD build is better, I think in this meta we can see why so many people are building AP Corky.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense why we're seeing stuff like the AP Kai'Sa and all, right? Because it's just like, well, if you ever try and play off of like an actual AD build with Kai'Sa, you kind of just get blown up. Whereas if you can like 2-pop an AD carry with 2 of the void missiles because you proc your passive because you got that AP build, you're gonna do more for exactly what kind of is happening in the meta.
I hate it, Rob. I hate it.
I think unfortunately, I know
It's
I hate
the
it.
ARAM KDA build. It
Yep,
is the
it
ARAM
literally
KDA
is.
build, and
Yeah.
I won't change
It
it.
literally is.
It's even for Ezreal and stuff, right? Like we saw a little bit of Divine Sunder, but we have seen like that Crown of the Shattered Queen one as well, where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna poke you from 1,000,000 miles. My ult's gonna do it like about a third of your health bar. Like there's so much that's revolving around
Yep.
poke and playing at range that it makes it so boring because you're like, oh well, he nearly died.
Nope.
Now he's got to reset and they can get dragon. Oh,
It's
yeah,
almost
okay.
there. But it provides a lot of tension-filled moments, though. I have felt, at least in this last week, where you do get kind of that Nayram stuff.
But there's no
that's what I'm saying.
payoff.
You get that 5v5
Yeah.
crazy tension. Oh my god! Oh, he took one rocket. There goes 3/4 of his health. A Zoe bubble. Oh my god! It's just like everything's like so close to being such chaotic explosiveness, and then we don't get it, and everybody backs off, and then we get an objective fight a couple minutes later where everything blows up. And I think that it's really interesting to take a little bit more of a look into that poke style for the LPL and see if it's something that really feels like it's going to stick for the LPL, because you're looking at team fights, you're looking at the way the meta is kind of developing, and is this something that you guys feel that the LPL is able to really take a hold of, right? Like, it's looked pretty good so far, but it's also looked a little hesitant.
Yeah, I think it probably will, just because I know we end up kind of creating our own metas, right, and scrimming quite a bit between ourselves and some of the LCK teams, and this is a style that like would fit LCK down to the ground, right? They want to try and play through like very slow, methodical, get your vision, encroach it in, make sure that you're setting up waves correctly, and these compositions, like using that long range, are perfect for that, because you get to play very slow and methodical, and you can see there are teams from the LPL that are doing it really well. I think though what'll end up happening eventually, so like say like a month in or so, you'll end up with teams like EDG who have these like weird funky picks that they're bringing out, or like there'll be something else that'll come through and people will just be like, oh okay, I really want to do this. Or maybe it's like the new AD carry, right, who's able to jump over like 3 walls or whatever the hell she's got. Like maybe that's all you need to just kind of break it all up and make sure you got someone to fly in and kill people. So I mean there'll always be something that will change, or people get nerfed. So but I think for the moment it's just so difficult to deal with the range. There's not a huge amount of engage tools that can actually set it up. It just becomes too difficult to actually stop.
I feel like for your question, Mazel, about whether this suits LPL or not, I feel like that question just... I feel like the question does not embody the sentiment of the LPL, if you know what I mean. Because when you look at the LPL...
Crazy is our game!
Like, I don't feel there is necessarily an LPL style. I feel like there's a bunch of different team styles, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there are things that are not LPL style, like Enchanter supports. That's something you're seeing everywhere else, but still not here, and I doubt we'll see. Even now that we're getting tanks in the top lane like Gragas, which is like, cool, now we have Engage. Now we can fit in an Enchanter. I still don't think we do that. It's
when
LPL.
we have
We're gonna
seen the
Nautilus.
Enchanters, it looks real rough, right? Like, we haven't seen it well.
I think not many supports off the top of my head can pull them off. Iwandi, obviously. Mako's good on them. Ming can play them, but not too many. But I think in terms of an LPL style, no, I think there's going to be teams that are going to be good at playing off this range and playing the re-engage in the zoning. I think there's going to be teams like OMG that are going to ban it out and be like, cool, we're going to just bring back assassins and short-range champions and just do that.
I love that you bring up OMG, though, because they did a little bit of both today in their series, right? Like the first
But
game,
point is, right, there are teams who can opt away from doing it, right?
I'm just gonna take any moment I can to give some love to OMG.
They
really
need it
cool.
after what Rob did to
They
them.
do,
So
they
please.
do. Rob is out for blood today. He woke up and chose
with
violence.
how brutal I've been on some of the teams, the fact that I was like, I'm on board with OMG, just want to wait and see how they do against good teams. I feel like that's a very reasonable stance to take. You know?
Counter argument. You're high on EDG when EDG have only beaten TT and JDG, Rob. Counter that.
That's sus.
Counter that.
You're the imposter.
Excuse me, World Championship.
Oh, no.
They are the literal best team in the world. I mean, all right, if OMG can bring a recent championship at all, or a world championship, I'm all on board.
2022.
If you can present evidence, sure.
You had Ox.
Maybe
You
then,
had
but-
Ox on the cast the other day saying TT was going to be the 2022 world champion. I mean, hey, it's anybody's running at this point. Come on, Dagda, you know that. He's just done with that. Just done.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep. We're just,
All right.
Yep. That's what we're going with. But now we actually got to talk about something serious, and it's the match of the week next week. And I for one, am very excited. I know Lyric's going to be very excited to talk about this one. Maybe we'll leave him out of the conversation. But it is V5 versus Top Esports, which is a very fun one, very exciting. A lot of big names going into this one.
I think the storylines are just banging. We got
They
Rookie
really are.
going up against Knight again. We
Yep.
got Karsa and Fokic versus their former team.
Yep.
Like, just a lot of great things going back and forth. The matchup-wise, I don't know. I'm even just looking at the roster and the team names on paper. I'm just like, I don't know. Top Esports is such an X factor. Xiaopeng's crazy. Karsa's a little bit crazy. You have the two lane gods going at it. TS should definitely be favored. I am kind of scared for Victory 5's bot lane. PP God, I think, is still very, very questionable. Fodic's all right. I think he's surprised over what he was last time. Is showing more of what we've seen in the LDL and the Demacia Cup. Still not a world beater by any means just yet. But man, then you move to top side. Invincible, I know he's just filling in. It was rough today.
was
He
rough.
did not have a
That was
good day,
exactly
James.
where I was going. I was just like, yeah, the bot lane. I'm just like, Zoom and Invincible. Invincible. I mean, I'm so sorry,
I'm so
buddy.
sorry.
Like, but I think as well, if there is ever a time for, like, look, I still think regardless of time-wise, this is still going to be a close series.
Yeah.
But I think with the current iteration of V5 and how they're kind of looking, I definitely feel like Top Esports is favored, right? Like, Top Esports have looked a little messy, but just pound for pound skill-wise, like, Zoom should beat Invincible. I think it would be a closer call with Rich in, but that's not what we're getting at the moment, right? The early game aggression, I don't think V5 are very set up to deal with, right? Because you can play through setting Invincible behind and getting Zoom ahead, or even in the bot lane, I think PP God is still playing way too gung-ho and can be exploited as well. So I think you got either side of the map that you can really play for, and although Karsa is pretty good at like trying to keep the opponent in check, I think there's just too many different places for teams to go, especially if you're playing Xiaopeng, who just kind of goes, yeah, camps are nice, but
I
kill
can
over
get
here.
blood.
Like, you're not going to be able to. Yeah, it's a lot more difficult to track and keep them in order. So yeah, I think for me, Top Esports will probably come out the victor, but I'm excited to see what V5.
I was going to say, please give me Karsa camping mid, chain ganking Knight over and
Constantly.
over again.
Like, hey.
Take away mobile champions like the Corki, force them out of something like a Victor or a Vex or whatever.
Yeah.
Pull out the Jarvan Karsa and just, once you're level 6, get that flash every time, set Rookie up for the solo kill, and then you know what? Top and bot lane are probably on fire. It's probably still screwed. You're probably done so.
But
maybe, like in today's series, Karsa steals a Baron.
Yeah,
Then you
and-
come back, then you win a game.
And you make Knight really jealous because you're like, look, I made my new mid laner look so nice and good. He looks beautiful. He does so well. And then you could go off of that. I like to think that there's a little bit of a personal grudge there. But I'm very excited for this, specifically for that mid lane matchup, though. And I do think it's going to be a main piece to how both teams approach the series itself.
I definitely think it's so weird actually thinking over the last few splits. But when I think of LPL Premier mid laners, the two names that still jump to my mind are these two names.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like that Doonby was definitely the best LPL mid laner last year, I think, for a majority of the year. Scout obviously winning worlds. I mean, picking up MVP in finals. Even Fofo stepping up. No. When I think of Premier LPL mid laners, I still think of Rookie and Knight. I still think in terms of the heights that can be delivered. These are the two players that will deliver them, especially in terms of laning. I know we joked about Rookie's Vex earlier today, but I still think Rookie is a player who's shown he can pretty much play anything. And that 1v1 matchup in mid, man, I just can't wait for it. And it's not going to be a 1v1. It's going to be a 2v2 because Karsa ganks mid, Xiaopeng's crazy, and I just can't get any more excited just based off that.
I mean, I would 100% agree. Like, this is going to be such a hype matchup. And it's not only the fact that it is the players that it is, it's the kind of the storyline too as well. As you say, like, it's Karsa versus Knight trying to absolutely smack his old team. Fotic going up against the AD carry who replaced him. And yeah, there's so much that's there. I'm just so ready for it. And I'm hoping that we don't get this crap meta. I'm hoping we don't get Corkies. I'm hoping we don't get this. I don't want to see a Jhin in the bot lane. I want to see the all-out brawls. I want this to pop the hell
You've
off.
reminded me something, Rob, that today I was so tilted when we got Zed. And just like you called it, you're like, it's going to be a jungle Zed. But it's like, it brings me back that if people remember, Zed has always traditionally been one of the go-to counters for Corki. I remember season 6 when I was coaching LMS, my mid laner would pick Corki. When we were laning against Fofo would pick Zed, and Fofo would completely smurf on us. And I was so excited today, Rob. I was so excited, and we didn't get that. I mean, Zed jungle's cool, but Zed mid would have been way more hype.
The excitement was like Zed mid into Zed jungle into Strybreaker Zed. It was kind of like a level of falling that really just took the wind out of my sails, you know? And I was like, all right, well, look, I mean, if I look up pro builds right now or whatever, it's still like 95% of people are building this like lethality build. Zed Yomu's into like Duskblade, or you can go for the cliff.
That's not
I was
what
like,
we
I'm
do.
ready for SFM to go nuts. And I was like, but as I said that sentence, SOFM is going to go nuts. I went, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I was like, it's going to be some weird build that is going to be all over the place. He's going to be tanky because he needs to be tanky. And yeah, that's what I got.
It's, yeah, you can always have some hopes and dreams, but they can also always be crushed. So we'll keep with that conversation. But all is well with the match of the week. It's very exciting. And I'm very excited. Everybody's really excited. It's one of the best matches, I feel like, of the split so far, or hopefully it will be. But my next big question is probably the biggest question of the entire conversation. And it's the most important, too. Who you got for social media? Which team are you liking the most right now? I'm going to go to you first, Lyric. Who do you got right now? As week 1 comes to a close, who's winning the social media battle between the teams?
You got to come back to me. Wait, I'm not gonna pull up Twitter right now.
I'm just not okay.
Come back to me.
Well, we're going to Dagda first.
Wait, who? Sorry, is this which
has the
team
best social media presence, content, posters? Like, what is your favorite standout?
God. I mean, yeah, I don't actually know. Jesus. The EDG poster stands out of my mind just because it was like TT literally
so
crying
mean.
in front of them as there a giant knight behind them about to chop off their
Big
head. That
old
was pretty
red
funny.
star on the chest.
Yeah, I don't, have you got one, Lyric?
If I'm gonna think about a team who puts out,
I love this though because you guys are really uncomfortable with it. This is exactly what I wanted with this.
I was gonna say my answer is no team. Every team, their social media is not up to par because they have not hired this man who's a social media expert. His name is Mole. If you bring in Mole, you feature him in some ads, in some content, maybe some highlights, bring him on as a streamer, move him up to your full-time mid laner, bring him to Worlds, then you will be Lyric's #1 ranked LPL social media team. But until then, they all suck.
So the thing is, I'm going to say EDG, not because of EDG, but because of iCrystallization, who keeps me up to date with everything I need to know about EDG. And then the other best person is Rita, because Rita cute buddy chew, or those two are basically everyone that I need to keep me up to date with the social media of each of the teams. Because I will say most of their effort goes into Weibo, which I can't read. So having them translate that then helps me. Those two are the actual best for the teams. That's the best social media any of the other teams.
Hoopu has actually been doing a really good job of covering some of the interviews and things along those lines as well. So
I mean Ran as well.
Exactly,
there's like several other people.
And so I always think that diving into the team content is always so interesting. And trying to bring that out a little bit more as the English audience, I think would be really fun. So I'm glad to get your guys' 2 cents. I'm glad to put you in a little bit of a pot of hot water there. But final thoughts after first week is in the books, guys. What you got?
This is going to be a long split.
Okay, that's all you. That's the words of encouragement there. It's going to be a long split.
The 3 series for 3 days at the weekend is absolutely insane. There is so much League of Legends on that I can't even compute. Like, it is now 4:30 over in Ireland. I have just finished LPL. I am doing this podcast. At LEC, I've already missed half of a game. Like, there is so much
Nice.
League of Legends to consume on weekends. Plus, you got LCS afterwards. You've LCK that's been on. It's kind of insane how much is happening at the moment, but I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm hoping that as this meta progresses, we start to see a lot of those really cool picks come through. It feels like there's so much just hovering beneath the surface that can really blow open and change, like completely catch people unaware. I feel like there's going to a lot of people trying this and perfecting this, so I'm excited for what the rest of Split holds. It's just been a slow start with the style that we're seeing at the moment.
Hey, we're one weekend. We still got a long way to go, but it's been a fun one for sure. Thank you guys for joining me yet again. It's been another wonderful week of The Last Hit. Thank you again, Lyric. Thank you, Dagda, and everyone watching at home. We'll see you next time and next week for the next episode of The Last Hit.